this staff, you shall do my wonders.
The Prince of Egypt is a Disney animated movie full of famous actors and actresses, including Val Kilmer, Sandra Bullock, and Danny Glover. It begins with a Hebrew slave smuggling her son in a basket on the Nile River to escape death. The child is found by the Pharaoh's wife and is given the name Moses. This sets the stage for the classic Old Testament story.
The Prince of Egypt is a movie based on a biblical story of Moses journeying from his birth all the way to being chosen by God to lead his people out of Israel towards the Promised Land. In this analysis of a classic story, we will be looking to understand certain aspects of the movie that cater to making it more relatable to kids, taking the time to notice certain scenes and aspects and how they are more friendly, and how the more serious scenes are able to still get the same point across without crossing any boundaries with children or parents.
There have been numerous classical films that have had many similarities to The Prince of Egypt. For example, Cecil B. DeMille's The Ten Commandments, there's a substantial difference between the scenes and how they are presented, but ultimately both scenes end up conveying the same mass exodus. While the producers took creative liberties throughout The Prince of Egypt, including historical inaccuracies, the chariot race in The Prince of Egypt still has some similarities to the chariot race in the classic film Ben-Hur. In The Prince of Egypt, the race is more lighthearted, yet you can still see the chariot carts running into each other and the riders' lack of concern for those near the race path.
Now, what exactly would you define an epic film to be? Our definition is that it is a film based on and focusing on a central heroic figure with a high amount of ambitious nature, which allows it to be different from a more adventurous film. For example, with the Exodus scene, typically epics are not cartoons, but The Prince of Egypt matches our previously stated definition, and the visuals associated with this scene give us our basis for it being labeled as an epic film.
While watching the When You Believe scene, the song placement and usage are essential to setting the current moment and emotions that the directors are trying to invoke. The music does a splendid job in accompanying the beginning of the Exodus, because that task itself was questionable, but with the song, there's hope.
In Through Heaven's Eyes, the song along with the celebration scenes gives the scenes a very festive feel and positive transition from Moses' sudden departure from Egypt. With all the action along with the upbeat tempo of the song, it helps to keep the children involved in the movie and is a catchy tune that children and parents can sing along with and enjoy.
How do you judge what a man is worth? By what he builds or buys? You can never see with your eyes on earth. Look through heaven's eyes.
It's important to point out that in The Prince of Egypt there is some masking of violence, which is a technique used in many cartoon films geared towards children. Although the story may be simplified like in films such as The Prince of Egypt, the producers still do a great job of getting the story's significance across to the audiences. For the most part, cartoons are usually made for children, and while they are the main viewers, the parents are the ones buying the movies, so producing the films that are still child-friendly and acceptable for all ages is important to the writers and producers of the film.
Scenes like Moses in a chariot race with his brother and other over-the-top scenes are important because it helps to provide some relief to the more serious events that happen in the film, like when Moses kills the Egyptian guard or when Moses sends the plagues to the Egyptians. Even in these scenes, the death is portrayed more as an accident and the plagues are shown in a more mild manner. This is probably because of the audience of primarily being made up of children and families.
It is important to understand and relate everything we have discussed, from the music selections to the over-the-top scenes, and the fact that cartoon biblical stories have different criteria and audiences than in live-action movies. The Prince of Egypt's ability to accomplish great feats with more constraints is a credit to the production and technical teams. Considering the target audience and the success of the film overall, The Prince of Egypt can be compared to other biblical epics such as Cecil B. DeMille's The Ten Commandments and Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ on its ability to convey these classic religious stories.